Head of Economic Policy in the ANC, Enoch Godongwane, has taken over as the new Finance Minister. For more on what can be expected from him, I'm joined now by investment specialist at Genera Capital, Professor Adrian Saville. Very good morning to you. Thank you for your time. We have received a lot of mixed reaction when it comes to the appointment that we saw last night. And specifically looking at the new Finance Minister, in the mixed reaction, there was concern raised about his past and his take on pension money from a textile company, and that over 100 million rand. Do you imagine that that past could have an impact on the future?
I think that all aspects need to be considered. It's a far from ideal circumstance when anyone is appointed to a position of this type of authority, status and stature, and there are question marks over them. So, if we can talk about the principle rather than the individual. And I think that aspect has to be considered in the appointment of leadership positions in any circumstance. I think that there are another suite of also really important factors to consider in this appointment, one of which is the timing of it. Is you could hardly think of a less fortunate time than in the depths of a pandemic, struggling with rollout. There is some silver lining of vaccine rollout. There is some silver lining to the circumstance, and that comes in the form of the commodity pricing bonanza or boom, which takes a little bit of pressure off. But you've had now former Minister of Finance who has really squared up to a very fierce fiscal environment, and we now have a finance minister who is untested in very, very trying circumstances. I would put those down as two negatives.
Mm-hmm. You speak about a man that's not been tested. We also know that former Finance Minister Godongwana was known by the financial markets, especially also looking at his role as a former Reserve Bank governor. What then do you imagine that the new Finance Minister will need to do to get that trust and confidence from ratings agencies and the markets? Well,
Minister Godongwana is not unknown to the market. He has a long history. He has been in senior positions before. He has a history in economic policy and has been very vocal on important issues. Probably most recently, the issue of the nationalization of the central bank, of the South African Reserve Bank, where he was very vocal. He's also known to be a supporter of President Ramaphosa, and I think that these are important factors to also throw into the consideration. And if you look at the way the rand reacted to the announcement, obviously, capital markets or currency markets are watching these by the microsecond, and the instant Tito Mbowene's resignation was announced or accepted, you saw a rand that sold off very dramatically. Then, as the new appointment was announced, the rand quite quickly clawed back a lot of that shock response. So I think it's a roundabout way of saying that the new minister is not entirely unknown. He's seen and regarded as a Ramaphosa supporter, which is really important in the consolidation phase that we are in terms of policy and structural adjustment. And he's been vocal on important issues such as the Reserve Bank issue.
Mm-hmm. Since taking the job in 2018, former Finance Minister Godongwana was really at pains voicing his frustrations with the inability of the ANC therefore, government on taking hard reform policy decisions and bringing down the public sector wage and limiting bailouts for SOEs like Eskom. What sort of position is the new minister likely to take, given the manner he's been really vocal on a strong consensus, for reform?
Maybe fortunately or unfortunately, we won't have to wait too long, because we'll have the medium-term budget policy statement presented in a couple of months. And that's the next clear step we get in the direction of fiscal policy. There's very few ways of dressing this up, but South Africa in the recent past has moved into a unsustainable fiscal circumstance. The public sector wage bill is just one aspect of the threat or risk to fiscal sustainability. The implications brought by state-owned enterprises, not only in terms of their operational efficacy, but also the impact on the fiscus, on the state balance sheet, is another aspect. And then the absence of economic growth. So all of these point to really important structural changes that need to happen. If the new minister steps away from this, I think that would be an injection of more of the same, or an elevation of risk. The ratings agencies have been very clear and increasingly vocal about the importance of getting out of the business of talking about these policy changes and evidencing and delivering them. In last year's medium-term budget policy statement and in the recent main budget, there was clear reference to the consolidation of the wage bill and managing that wage bill. We have to get out of talking about that now and into the evidence of seeing that wage bill is being managed and moderated. So there's a number of markers that I think we can put down as very early evidence or clear evidence that the policy that's being spoken about and that has been suggested by former Minister Godongwana is going to be implemented under the new Finance Minister.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time and weighing in there. Professor Adrian Saville, investment specialist at Genera Capital, giving us his view of the expectations of the new Finance Minister.